Live from the Grove in New Haven, this is Where We Live. I'm John Dankosky. We're talking about startups at one of the most innovative hubs in the state. It's the Grove co-working space here in the Ninth Square. We've been here before, but we're back, and it's grown, and the neighborhood has changed. The launch of The Grid, a new space just around the corner, is coming up on Monday. It's a hub commissioned as part of the state of Connecticut's Innovation Ecosystem Program. Derek Koch is manager of The Grid, and we'll be talking more about that in a moment. Also joining us is Slate Ballard, who's co-founder of The Grove, this co-working space. John Cipher now joins us. He's head of CEO Bootcamp and president of the Angel Investor Forum. John, good to see you again. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So how do you play into all this? How does the angel investor world play into this innovation ecosystem?
Well, the Angel Investor Forum actually started in 2004, and it's a statewide organization, so we touch all the hubs of the ecosystem. And it's a network of individuals who invest their own money in startup companies. So we meet every month. We bring in 2 companies to present. If there's enough interest, we look into them more, and then we invest. And so over the years, we've invested in a number of Connecticut companies. And we actually meet about a couple miles from here in New Haven at our monthly meeting. And I can announce that we're starting a fund now. Individually, members have invested their own money. We're going to pool that money into a fund and invest by vote. So that'll give us more money to bring to the entrepreneurs.
And so who are these investors? Who's
These
part of
are
this?
wealthy individuals. The SEC has a term called accredited investors. And if you are an accredited investor, then an entrepreneur can pitch to you without a whole lot of regulation that goes into selling securities. And so our membership is open to anybody in the state and even outside the state that wants to do that.
So give us an idea of who you'd be investing in. What sort of tech startups or small businesses that you might want to throw your money behind that might be right here in New Haven?
I can give you some examples. Our latest deal is one called Umbi Dental, which is not a New Haven company, but it is a Connecticut company. They make software for running dental practices. They're also been invested by CI, Connecticut Innovations, which we also often co-invest with. We've invested in Continuity Control, which is right down the street. They provide banking software for small community banks and also for credit unions. But we've also invested in things like Q-Tonic, which is a high-end tonic water to go with your high-end vodkas and gins. So we kind of are opportunistic in the kinds of things that we invest in.
I prefer tonic water. That's actually like that. I didn't know that.
Yes,
okay.
They're sold in at the Wine Thief down the street. They're sold in Whole Foods. They're sold in a lot of upscale bars. So when you do that, you're supporting some Connecticut investors. We've invested in companies called AutoTether, which is a safety device for boaters. A company called School Chapters, which helps preschools get certification, that kind of thing.
Wow. I'm wondering, and we'll get into more of the funding for these. I wonder, Derek, can you share some success stories? I mean, some different companies, startups that are part of this world that you're helping to hub?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, some of them are in the audience today, and one in particular that I think was featured on your last show through comments was John Fitzpatrick's company, Applavate. John got started at Startup Weekend in New Haven, the first annual, and has since raised capital, done a lot of work on the product, gotten users, done a great deal of work on his startup. So it's a really interesting success story that we like to talk about.
I wonder if John wants to join us here. I think we have the microphone from. Is this John?
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
So, Derek gave you a nice little plug. Tell us a little bit more about your company.
Yes, we got started at Startup Weekend, which was held right here in the Grove in November of 2011, and that was a great start for us. Since then, we've developed a prototype. We've got it in the hands of some early users. We've raised some initial funding, and we're looking to grow, raise more funding, get more users, and market our product.
And the Startup Weekend, again, for people who don't understand this, we've mentioned this in the program before, but for people who aren't part of this world, what exactly happens during Startup Weekend?
Startup Weekend runs from Friday evening to Sunday evening. It's held in cities around the world. People who want to start companies show up. Some people have ideas, some people have technical skills. The people with ideas pitch on Friday evening, and teams form around the ideas, and they work on the ideas all weekend, and then you pitch before a panel of judges on Sunday evening, and there are winners and prizes, and it's very exciting, it's very intense, and for us it was a fantastic launch. I mean, we came in first place, and it felt like getting shot out of a cannon.
So if people have an idea like the Startup Weekend is one place for it, I mean, but how do you take this good idea that you may have, whether it's technology or anything else, and actually get it to market? How do you tie into all this stuff that you guys are doing here?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think John's story is instructive in this way. And I met John, and he wasn't the CEO of Applavate. He was just a guy who came to the Grove and asked, I heard you're doing Startup Weekend. I've got an idea. Should I come? What should I do next? And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs find themselves. So, the proposition of the grid really starts with this idea of community that's so prevalent in the Grove, and connecting people and finding out what do they need. Some people might need to come to an event like Startup Weekend to find a team to flesh out their idea, but others, there are other startup people from the Ninth Square in this space. Suk Graywall, I just saw from Graywall Software. Suk's running a successful business not far from here. He's got different needs. So the beginning of the conversation really is, what can we do to help? What kind of talent, capital, mentoring and education issues, community and space tools can we use to help you get to the next level? And some of it might include, some of the support that John and the AIF might provide, and it might involve getting that entrepreneur, in front of people who might want to invest. It could include a lot of things, but it really begins with coming out to an event like our open house on Monday, and starting to talk with us.
Yeah. Did you want to pick up?
Yeah, I just think that, John's obviously tapped into a ton of resources here at the Grove, and I think that that's a huge thing, that people who have ideas, just ideas that they think could be, a good business idea or a social venture or whatever it looks like, can come down to the Grove and connect. We have lots of events that happen down here for free, or cheap events like Launch Haven, which is John was making a note of, but that happens every third Thursday. It's an event where, we bring together a bunch of people that are interested in entrepreneurship or have ideas. They pitch their ideas. They can find mentorship at that event, as well as connect to the greater community. But also we do a lot of other things. A Grove membership is a very easy thing for people to do, is come down here if they're working out of their house, or even if they have a job that, they can come down here part-time and tap into this real diverse community of freelancers and independents and entrepreneurs who have different skill sets. I tell people all the time that the ability for people to problem solve quickly here at the Grove is amazing. That's one of the biggest benefits.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you is so our audience understands, membership at the Grove, if you want to take part, it's not like it's, costing an arm and a leg, like renting a whole storefront.
Yeah, exactly. It's, it ranges from $75 a month to $250, so it can be cheaper than your cable bill. And the resources that you get here are huge. John's tapped into a ton of people. He's found talent. He's, I've connected him to developers and different people, and he's found community here as well. And that's what everybody here at the Grove finds, is they find community. They get to know the people that are working here. They get to know the skill sets that are here, and you can ask questions of people, and people share knowledge. And that's the whole idea of the Grove, is this peer-to-peer knowledge sharing and the innovation that comes out of that.
Now, I've never worked in a co-working space, but one thing I guess I've always been fascinated by is there's this great idea of collaboration, that you'll make these contacts. One of the things I would worry about, though, is I'm sitting there, I got my headphones on, I'm cranking away on this proposal I got to do, and people are coming up to me, hey, John, I got this great idea, but you really got to help me out. I mean, does that ever get in the way? I mean, collaboration's great, but at the end of the day, you got to pay your own bills.
Yeah, you had your headphones on, though, John. So that meant you didn't want to talk to anybody.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's part of it. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely a social component of being down here, and that's why our memberships are flexible. You don't have to be down here all the time. You can be at home and work in isolation and really drill down. But a lot of our members will say that their productivity increases in a huge way when they're down here. I don't know, John, you answer that question. I think that's a better question for you to answer, or one of our other members.
Well, definitely, but it's a good point. When I really need to drill down and hunker down, I stay at home. But then I come in here and I get the community, and I think Slate and Derek emphasize the community more. This is more than just a space. They've curated and cultivated a community. And something happened last week. I was in the kitchen eating a sandwich. Somebody walked in for a cup of coffee, asked how it was going. I said, we're starting to raise money. And he said, really? So he's connecting me to a client of his who's a potential investor, and that's the sort of stuff that happens at the Grove all the time.
Now, we're at the Grove right now in New Haven's 9th Square, and we're talking about startup business and entrepreneurship. We've got a number of entrepreneurs in the audience. Does anybody want to join the conversation? Anybody want to get involved? In the front row here, maybe Rusty can hand over the microphone. Hi there, what's your name and what's your business?
Blaine McDermott, and I'm the founder of Red Rock Branding. And a few years ago, I heard this radio show where we live, and you mentioned the Grove was just starting, so I visited that day. And as an early adopter, I just want to say how exciting it's been to be part of the community here, and my business has benefited as a result of being part of it.
Specifically, how's your business benefited?
I think it's just the collaboration piece that we've all talked about, and tapping into a community of designers and creative people that have been able to help me produce better product for my clients.
So I wonder now, Derek, how does that scale up as you have more space and you have the grid here? The Grove is growing, obviously. It's bigger than it was. How does it get bigger and better in a much larger space?
Well, that really touches on these grid programs that we're launching. So in specific, in terms of the tools that we now have in our toolbox that we didn't have before, we've got space that now we can configure, and Slate's done a lot of work on making very modular. So when a team comes in, they can look at a 6-month time horizon and say, we want to develop our business in a certain way in the next 6 months. We want to tap into a space that can serve our 4 team members and do it in a very customized way. So that's a new kind of frontier when it comes to space. But then in that same space, people like John, mentors that are here, like Jeff Block, who's in the audience, will actually be present in that space as well and be holding office hours. We'll have our growth company advisor, Rohit Sharma, in the space. So we're bringing a lot of the resources that the state has helped us bring to bear with the Innovation Ecosystem Program directly in that space. Someone might start out here in the space as a freelancer, might catch an idea to take their business to the next level and want to grow it to a 10-person company. That space is really intended to be that next step that they can take to grow it to the next level, meet investors, get more mentoring and access to capital, things like that.
Well, and I want to bring John Cipher back into the conversation. We talked a little bit about the investing piece, and I want to talk more later about how we find money for this. But your other hat here, your other role is as a coach, as a mentor. CEO Bootcamp is part of that. Maybe you can talk about your role and how people who are starting businesses need that help to get from stage 1, stage 2, and then be really a thriving, successful business.
Right. The stage 1 startup companies, their real job is to find a business model that'll scale. They need to get a product out. They need to talk to customers. They need to develop how that's going to grow. But then there's a shift that happens where a CEO needs to be more focused on building the organization and less, not necessarily less, but also focused on not just the product. They need to actually scale the company. And that's what the CEO Bootcamp is designed to do, is to give that education piece. Because, people know that the failure rate in startups is pretty huge. And I actually think the reason that it's so big is because of passion, which is a surprising thing because everybody says that's what you got to have to start a company. And you do need that. But passion can also blind you to the lessons that other people know about building companies.
And you don't want to give up that control. You had the control. It was your baby. It was your thing. And now at a certain point, someone's telling you, you have to relinquish some of that and hire new people and change the way you work.
Exactly. And if you look at big companies, the person who's at the top, the CEO, he or she doesn't control everything that goes on in the company, but they have put procedures and policies in place, get that wisdom out of people's heads and diffused throughout the organization. And that's really what the CEO Bootcamp is designed to do, so that people don't run their companies just by intuition, but they take that wisdom and experience, it's intuitive, and then make it procedural so that the company can scale and grow.
It seems as though that's an important thing, Derek, to have that ability to tap into some knowledge, because I would guess most startup businesses really don't know much going in of what John just talked about.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about moving from stage 1, proving your business model, and moving beyond is that most entrepreneurs, I think, in the past have gone that road alone. And so what the grid is really trying to provide with our different programs is to create a runway to get to the next level. And so, when you hit a certain point, all the passion and and drive that you had in the beginning of the business starts to, in some ways, work against you, and you need to start to become a bigger company, behave in a different way, learn new skills. And so having a program like John's Resident in the Hub allows us really to create that smooth runway for an entrepreneur. It's hard enough to start a company as it is without struggling to find resources that you need. So we envision what we're doing is creating an on-ramp, a runway, if you will, to help people launch and grow.
We're going to be talking more about funding these startups when we come back. And we'll also be hearing from more of the small business people and startup entrepreneurs who are in our audience coming up on Monday, February 25th. There's a ribbon cutting and a launch ceremony for this new innovation hub. It's being called The Grid. It's right around the corner from the Grove, where we're broadcasting from today. It's on Orange Street in the 9th Square of New Haven. If you want to join us live, you can come on down. You can also send us an email, wherewelive@wnpr.org, or you can tweet us at wherewelive. We'll be right back.